The latest developer update for Microsoft Flight Simulator had a slight change of format recently and increases the amount of information being provided. This includes some new details on improved particle effects, force feedback support, Nvidia DLSS and more, so let's jump in and take a look. To start with then, each week Asobo and Microsoft provide a feedback snapshot that covers the game's top voted bugs as well as the top voted wishlist. Up until now, that has always contained 25 points for each. However, it has recently been extended to cover 50 points purely due to the amount of work that is going into the sim. This means we now have quite a bit more insight as to the current status on a bunch of additional features. Starting with the top wishlist then, I will skip over the usual suspects of helicopters and multi-monitor support, as nothing has really changed on those over the past few weeks. For reference though, for those of you who don't know, multi-monitor support is suspected for 2021 and helicopters for 2022. Let's skip over those initial 25 points then and focus instead on the additional 25. The first point here, as Asobo mentioned, is the rolling out of beta versions of each major update that players can enable before a patch. Now this really should help get around many of those more significant problems that seem to arrive with nearly every update. How long these beta periods last is completely unknown, and how early we get access to them or whether everyone will get access to them is also unknown, but it really is a good start and certainly a step up from where things are right now, potentially giving Asobo information and data on potential problems before they happen. Now for the rest of the list, I'm going to break it down by date. First, here are the things that are planned for release in 2021. The update for the G1000 system that will be implemented over the next few sim updates will also implement Keybind updates. This essentially means that simmers will be able to use the G1000 soft keys and knobs through the use of their own keybinds, so that should improve interactiveness immensely. Improved particle effects and node-based particles are due for release this year, and work on these has already been started. Personally, I'm wondering if this will be a part of the DirectX 12 update, which is due in the summer. For those of you who have a Tobii eye tracker, you will be pleased to hear that official support for this will be arriving this year as well. Also planned for this year are classic flyby views and tower views. That's something though I'm surprised wasn't actually in from day one, but there we go, at least it's coming soon. Work has also started on improving propeller effects to make the flight model more realistic. And finally, there will be an update this year for the world map, which will bring some improvements, although at the moment the nature of those improvements hasn't been detailed. So those are a few of the things that we can expect to see in this year, in addition to the other things already announced in the past few months. Moving on to 2022, there's a few new things which are definitely going to be highly anticipated. Of course, there's helicopters, as we already mentioned. Another are the world updates for Italy as well as South Korea. Both of these are planned for next year. Incidentally, further updates to Europe are also planned between now and 2023. In terms of the smaller scaled additions, power lines, masts, cable cars and things of that nature are still missing from the sim, and I'm sure many of you will have noticed that. This will be arriving in 2022, as will the ability to open the doors of planes, which is a feature I know a lot of people seem to enjoy. Back on the subject of visuals for the moment, the Aurora Borealis, that's the Northern Lights, are planned as an addition for next year. Now that's something I'm certainly very interested in seeing. There's already some spectacular sights to see in Microsoft Flight Simulator, and this will just add a whole new layer to that. Other than that, there's a couple of things that have a release window of between 2021 and 2022, and these are shared cockpit views and fixes to AI traffic. So it seems basically at the moment, the way these two things are set, that Asobo are unsure as to whether they will release this year or next year. Now those are the things that currently have a release window of some type. There are a few other features which are listed as under investigation. So these don't have any release date just yet, but I assume once they have been investigated, Asobo will decide whether or not to release them this year, next year, or maybe 2023, or potentially even not at all. So things listed under this category, that's for investigation, include force feedback support, legacy cockpit buttons, and Nvidia DLSS support, ISFR frequencies and improved VFR maps, as well as making online AI open to third-party developers, and finally a complete rework of taxi arrows. Beyond all of this, there's also a feedback snapshot for VR. However, I don't want to focus on this just yet, as the list contains 50 items and the majority of these are listed as not started. You can see on the screen right now, so something to take a closer look at in the future. However, if you do want to take a look at the full list, you can find it linked in the video description. The current roadmap for Microsoft Flight Simulator ends on the end of April, and as yet Microsoft haven't released a new one. Typically, these are released every 3 months or so maybe a new one will arrive at the end of this week, we'll have to see. Of course, if there are any changes there, I will keep you updated. That then brings us to an end of this video. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.